But what if you had to decide who lives and who dies? You're standing by a railway track. A trolley barrels toward 5 people, tied down and helpless. Beside you is a lever. If you pull it, the trolley will shift tracks, or one person is also tied down. Do nothing, and 5 die. Pull the lever, and you kill 1. What do you do? This is the trolley problem, a moral nightmare disguised as a simple choice. It looks like a logic puzzle, but it's not. It's a mirror, and what it shows isn't always comforting. Because what really matters isn't what you say you'd do, it's why you say it, and whether your reasons hold up when the cost is personal, or when the person on the other track is someone you love. In this video, we're going deeper than surface-level ethics. We'll explore the origin of the trolley problem, and how its creators never intended for you to feel safe with your answers. The psychological battle inside your own brain, why your feelings and your reasoning often contradict each other, how cultural, emotional, and personal biases quietly twist your sense of justice without you realizing it, and why your moral instincts, the ones you're sure are right, might be lying to you. You'll walk through variations that get darker. You'll face questions that can't be answered without guilt, and by the end, you won't just be thinking about right and wrong. You'll be thinking about who you become when those words stop meaning anything at all. This is not a video about ethics. It's a confrontation with your own values. So, would you pull the lever? Let's begin. Before this became a viral meme or a college essay prompt, the trolley problem was born from war, fear, and a quiet rebellion against moral simplicity. In 1967, British philosopher Philippa introduced a scenario designed to challenge a long-standing principle in Catholic moral theology, the doctrine of double effect. The idea that causing harm can be morally permissible if the harm is a foreseen side effect of doing good, rather than the goal itself. Foote asked, what if you had to let 5 people die, or actively kill 1 to save them? She wanted to test whether we really believe that inaction is morally cleaner than action, even when the consequences are worse. But it wasn't until Judith Jarvis Thomson took it further in 1976 that the problem became a razor-sharp moral weapon. She added a second version. This time, there's no lever. You're standing on a footbridge above the track. Next to you is a large man. The only way to stop the trolley is to push him onto the track, killing him, but saving 5 others. Same math, same lives, different choice. Why does it feel so much worse? This is where the trolley problem stops being about logic and starts being about you. Because even people who say they'd pull the lever freeze when asked to push. So what changed? It's not the numbers. It's that the killing feels direct, personal. It forces you to see yourself not as a savior, but as the cause of someone's death. That emotional recoil, that's what this series is about. Not what's rational, what's human, and how fragile your moral clarity really is. If you want more of these dark, honest thought experiments that tear open comfortable answers, hit subscribe. Not because it's trendy, because this is a place where we don't flinch when philosophy gets ugly. Ready to go deeper? Let's look inside your brain. So why does pulling a lever feel clean, but pushing someone to their death feels monstrous? It's not a trick of conscience, it's a battle inside your brain. In the early 2000s, psychologist Joshua Greene and his team at Harvard used fMRI scans to study how people made trolley-style moral decisions. What they found changed moral psychology forever. When people were asked about the classic lever scenario, the prefrontal cortex associated with rational thinking and calculation lit up. But when they were asked about pushing someone off a footbridge to stop the trolley, a very different area activated, the amygdala and parts of the medial frontal cortex, regions linked to emotion, fear, and empathy. The conclusion? We don't have one moral system. We have 2, one emotional, one rational, and they often fight each other to the death. This is the dual process theory of moral judgment. It explains why we feel horror at personal violence, even when we know the outcome is better. In Greene's words, we are like animals with a rational prefrontal cortex strapped on top. Here's the deeper truth. You're not just reasoning your way through moral choices. You're running an internal courtroom. One side shouting, do what's right. The other side screaming, don't be a monster. And neither side always wins. That's why you can argue passionately for saving 5 lives. Until the victim has a name, until their eyes meet yours, moral reasoning isn't math. It's muscle memory, trauma, instinct, and guilt all crashing together under pressure. So the next time someone tells you ethics is about logic, remember, your gut pulls the lever before your brain ever touches it. In the next section, we'll leave the lab and look at what millions of real people did when faced with these same choices. Spoiler, they didn't all agree, not even close. If you think morality is universal, think again. In 2018, the journal Nature published results from one of the largest moral psychology experiments ever conducted. It was called the Moral Machine Project, and it asked millions of people across 233 countries the same question. If someone has to die, who should it be? These weren't philosophers or scholars. They were regular people, making split-second decisions in simulated life-and-death situations. Modern trolley problems. Should you sacrifice an elderly person or a young child, a criminal or a doctor, a homeless person or a business executive? The patterns that emerged were chilling and deeply revealing. Across cultures, moral instincts fractured in unexpected ways. In Western countries, most participants chose to save the greatest number of lives, a utilitarian approach grounded in outcome-based reasoning. But in Eastern societies, particularly in places like Japan, China, and South Korea, there was a clear preference for sparing the elderly. The moral weight of age, tradition, and filial piety shaped the decision. Meanwhile, participants from wealthier nations were more likely to prioritize saving children, reflecting values tied to future potential and societal investment. In contrast, people in some developing countries placed more emphasis on social roles and obedience to law, often choosing to spare individuals perceived as lawful or of higher social status. These differences weren't minor. They were statistically significant and morally unsettling. They showed that morality isn't carved into stone. It's written in the language of culture, class, and collective memory. What feels unquestionably right in one place may feel completely wrong in another. In other words, morality shifts depending on culture, income, religion, and politics. This isn't a bug in human ethics. It's the operating system, and it forces us to confront an uncomfortable fact. Your gut instinct about what's right might just be what your culture taught you to feel. So when we say we do the right thing, we have to ask, whose right thing? When you answered the trolley problem earlier, were you choosing based on logic or loyalty? Based on fairness or familiarity? You're not just a person with a moral code. You're a product of invisible systems, unconscious biases, and inherited beliefs. And if you've made it this far without subscribing, now's the moment, because this channel isn't just about what would you do, it's about why you believe it, where it came from, and what it costs to hold on to it. In the next section, we'll push the dilemma even further, because what if the person on the track isn't a stranger? The trolley problem feels clean, until it isn't. We've walked through tracks with strangers, but what if the one person on the second track is your partner, your child, your mother? Suddenly your certainty crumbles. You'd save 5 strangers over one stranger, but would you save 5 strangers over your daughter, or your father, or someone who once saved you? This isn't a trick, it's a deeper layer of the dilemma, one Judith Jarvis Thomson herself explored in her later work. She posed variants like, suppose the one person on the track is your child, would you still pull the lever? Most people say no. That answer isn't based on reason, it's based on attachment. And attachment, as psychologists like Jonathan Haidt point out, is not a flaw in our morality. It's how we evolved to survive. We're 90% chimp, 10% bee. Haidt writes. We care about kin and tribe, and only later invent principles to justify what we feel. Your ethics bend when the stakes get personal. Here's another twist. What if the 5 you're saving are criminals, and the one person you kill is a doctor, or a child prodigy, or a single mother? Now your brain tries to calculate value, as if some lives are worth more than others, as if you have the right to decide. But we do it every day, in hospitals, in disasters, in war zones, and we call it triage. Necessary, rational, inevitable. But here's the truth. Every life has equal worth until someone has to choose. The trolley problem doesn't just test your values. It shows how fast they collapse when love, loyalty, or judgment enter the frame. You're not just choosing between life and death. You're choosing between the person in front of you and the people you'll never meet. And sometimes the right answer is the one you can't live with. Next, we'll explore something even darker. What if your decision isn't guided by reason, but by bias? You say you'd pull the lever. You say you'd do the right thing. But what if the reason you chose who lives and who dies wasn't ethical at all? In 2013, psychologist David Pizarro and his team at Cornell ran a study on the trolley problem with a disturbing twist. Participants were shown 2 versions of the scenario, identical in every way except one detail: the race of the person being sacrificed. In statistically significant numbers, participants were more willing to sacrifice a black man than a white one, even when everything else was the same. These aren't just moral choices. They're revealing hidden prejudices, Pizarro explained. Other studies revealed a consistent, unsettling pattern. People were more likely to sacrifice the poor over the rich, even when wealth had no moral relevance. They chose to save citizens over immigrants, despite knowing nothing about either. And when shown images, they were more inclined to let those who appeared disheveled or lower class die, sparing those who looked clean, educated, or professional. The message was clear, though almost no one would admit it. Perception becomes morality, not values, not facts, just the face you see and what your brain assumes about it. Even when the numbers were equal, social perception shaped judgment. This is where the trolley problem stops being abstract and starts being a mirror not of your values, but of your biases. And the hardest part? You probably don't even know it's happening. Your brain runs on shortcuts, snap judgments, cultural programming that seeps in through years of exposure, media, politics, school, even family. So when you say you'd save 5 over 1, ask yourself, would you still say that if the 1 looked like you and the 5 looked like strangers or enemies or people your culture taught you to fear? The lever isn't just on the track, it's in your hand, and sometimes someone else's fingers are already on it. If this hits something uncomfortable, don't look away. Subscribe now, because this channel doesn't exist to comfort you. It exists to wake you up to the shadows behind your ethics, the stories behind your certainty, and the truth no one wants to name out loud. Let's close with what this all really means. The trolley problem doesn't give you an answer, it gives you a mirror, and what it reflects isn't always what you want to see. You want to be fair until someone you love is on the track. You want to be logical until emotion takes over. You want to be moral until the one you sacrifice doesn't look like you. That's the paradox. We claim to live by principles, but we die by instincts. So here's what this problem leaves you with. Your gut is not always your guide. It's a filter trained by fear, love, and culture. Being good doesn't mean feeling good. It means making choices you can live with, even if no one else could. Your bias is the lever, invisible, automatic, and deadly unless questioned. In the end, there's no right track, only the one you choose, and the one you chose not to. If you're ready to go deeper, watch our next video. See you there.